Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the conference. First session, first out, right? This is great. It's a wonderful conference. I'm really excited about this. So welcome to Building for WebDirect. We are in CRE01. If you want to learn about WebDirect, this is the place. My name is John Howell, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me, and thank you for taking busy time out of the conference to come to this particular session. So who am I? Right? I'm the president of Data Experience, small corporation located in a little town called Auburn, California, just east of Sacramento in the capital, in the foothills where I get to go bike riding all the time along the American River. So I've got about 27 years of FileMaker development, and I work for some big companies, Fortune 100, do a lot of work for companies like Genentech in construction, biotechnology, done some work with art marketing companies, and right now my focus is almost exclusively in WebDirect with PCI compliance and credit card processing and event management. So I'm a mechanical engineer. I went to school, got a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, and I got out of that education desperate to find something that I loved because I hated being an engineer. And I literally bounced around for a few years. I printed t-shirts, I was a salesman, and eventually I discovered FileMaker a few years after college, and that's all I've done ever since for like the last 27 years. I'm a certified developer in FileMaker 17 and just recently in 18. So first off the bat, what about you? I want to know, a raise of hands, how many people are certified in FileMaker 18 already? Okay, we got a few here, that's great. How about, okay, here's the deal. I printed up, while you were studying for the FileMaker 18 certification exam, while you were doing that, I printed up some wild t-shirts. So anybody who is certified in 18, at the end of the session, come up and grab a t-shirt, and hopefully we have your size. So we got a few of those. And by the way, anybody asks really cool questions at the end gets a t-shirt too. As much as possible, we'll try to hold questions to the end because I've got a lot of material. How many people are certified in FileMaker 17? Oh, fantastic, it's like half the crowd. And any FileMaker certification whatsoever. Nice, that's great, important. I want to pitch that because certification will not only challenge you to get to your best skill, it'll make you prevalent in the community, it will build tremendous self-confidence, it'll push you to be your best, you can make more money, get better jobs, and I think the biggest thing is it really builds character and gives you the opportunity to develop more skill. I do extensive work in WebDirect. Since it came out in FileMaker 13, that's about all I've done for 6.5 years. So I have done a lot of WebDirect work. And I don't think there's too many people who have done a lot, and I look for those people. So those of you who feel like you've done a lot of work in WebDirect, seek me out. I want to know who you are. I really want to talk to you. Building this stuff in this community doesn't come alone. I've had a lot of people who've really helped me out to build this presentation. I've got a number of demo files that you're going to get to be able to download from my Dropbox website. Mike Duncan helped us build the ability to do dynamic redirect in and out of FileMaker WebDirect, and I'm going to show that to you. Brian Wiemitz, sitting here in the front row, has a wonderful website. He's built a wonderful tool called FM Charts, FMEasyCharts.com, and the new release just came out today. You're going to see a very small example of that in the system. He's made it very easy for those of you who don't know much PHP or web design to be able to put charting in your FileMaker solution that will work both in FileMaker Pro and in WebDirect. Both the Joshes have helped me out a lot to be able to customize some CSS files and do some web stuff that I don't know. And then Jonathan Fletcher, my friend Ronnie Higgins, have put together wonderful styling templates for naming conventions for themes and styles. And there is a demo file available for you at the end about how to actually do tightly configured naming conventions for your styles and your themes. And my friend Brad Sanford taught me a wonderful trick we're going to show you about on-object enter script triggers. A lot of other friends, so if you're not part of a forum, please join a forum. And okay, one last question. How many people have spoken at developer conference or a FileMaker user group or anything like that? Please raise your hand. Nice, so that's like half of you. I want to encourage you to all to do that because it just really pushes you to build your skill level because you want to show up and look good. It's a wonderful experience. Please do it, and please try to speak at DEF CON. There's smarter, brighter, better looking, more talented people in this audience than me, and I want you to see you all come up and speak at DEF CON. I'd love it if you would. So the thing here is I am not a web developer. Okay? I lack the skills to build CSS and HTML and all these wonderful things in PHP. But I have the support of colleagues, especially from these forums that I'm in, that can help me compensate for my lack of skill in the web development arena for things like HTML, PHP, and CSS, and JavaScript, and things like that. So we can all work together to do it. And even more, I have a really wonderful tool that I work with, which is, of course, FileMaker WebDirect. There's a separate slide on the Dropbox folder that's going to go over things like what FileMaker WebDirect is, things to look out for, good practices or best practices, limitations, things you need to look for in development. I'm going to mention a few considerations in development, which is really the heart of what I'm going to show you here. But there's so many other things you need to consider that are already documented by FileMaker and other colleagues, and I give you a lot of links in this document to look at all this stuff. So there's references, and that's the link, but it should be available to you in the PDF already. So a note before I get started, I have a lot of material to cover. This was originally 700 slides. I've literally been working on this presentation for a year. I've delivered it in several different user groups. I took it to Europe and I presented it there. There's a few things I had to trim out to make it in an hour, so all of that is in the PDF, so that which I can't cover and had to trim is still available to you. The cool thing is that we back up against the lunch hour. This is 11 to 12. I'm going to go kind of fast, but try to make it assimilable. Everybody okay with that if I go a little quick? We good? So since we're up against the lunch hour, I've been given permission to stay here an additional 20 or 30 minutes to cover things like questions or dialogue, discussion about it, or maybe tear apart a file. So those of you who are willing to sacrifice a little of your lunch hour afterward, we can do a lot of the questions then, because I'm probably going to be right up against the hour with the material. Okay, is that good? Please stay if you have time. And everybody who asks a good question gets a t-shirt if there's any left. Okay. First off, there is some apprehension towards the FileMaker WebDirect product in the community. I'm well aware of that. I think there's a lot of people up there who haven't really used the tool. The apprehension is that, oh, maybe it's limited, maybe it's small. Many developers, I think, have not gone into it and really used it. They've got this thing in their minds from people I've talked to, that it's a limited tool, it's a canned product, I can't do very much, I can't get in and out of it, and it's not like real web design. But I'm telling you, it's not true that it's as limited as you may think it is. And neither is it instant web publishing, if you remember that. It's not, FileMaker WebDirect is not instant web publishing on steroids. It really is not. It's a redesigned tool. It uses Vaadin with long polling, and there's a lot of technical stuff you can read about. But it really is a new tool, and it's so much more powerful than IWP ever was. And if you learn a few of the tricks we show, there's a lot you can do with it. It instantly gives you what I think is about 95% of FileMaker capacity. The things you can do in FileMaker Pro natively, about 95% of those things are available in FileMaker WebDirect. And especially if you know a few of the things to look out for and how to use some peripheral technologies, you can do a lot more with it. So it's a powerful tool. And I'm going to encourage you to get to know it and work with it and realize that, oh, it's much better than I thought it really can be. And why does it matter, really, is as if you're not a talented web developer like me and you want to learn how to be a web developer, this is like an easy avenue to start to learn to start to learn web development by having to learn some of the things that I'm going to show you can do in and out of it, and yet impress your customers very quickly with a beautiful web interface that does really cool stuff without knowing much web design. So this is a tool for people like me who have, and I own it, limited web skills that I want to enhance over time. But I've been doing FileMaker Pro natively for 27 years. It's going to take me some time to catch up, right, in the web world. So learn how to deploy it. Don't expect it to be open code, so you can't get in and hack everything. You can't in and change it. Yeah, there's some limitations as far as getting into the box, because it is a product. It is an application that you're using deployed to the web. But it does deserve tremendous respect. It's a wonderful feat of creative engineering, and it's very stable. I have systems that have been running for 6.5 years on company servers. I don't talk to some of those old customers, and I made a phone call to somebody who sent me an email a few months ago. I go, how's that running in that massive manufacturing department? They said, oh, it's chugging along. We haven't even touched the server in 2 years. And it's sent out hundreds of thousands of emails, and has millions of records and a very rich interface, and it's going just fine. Another question that comes up for people, what about performance in WebDirect? Isn't it slow? Oh no. I'm going to tell you that in a lot of cases, WebDirect in a browser is much faster than FileMaker Pro as a client. I recently went to Berlin to the European conference, presented there, and just to show everybody, I opened up FileMaker Pro Advanced on my MacBook, talking to a server that's an AWS server in the States, and it actually rendered slow because it had to download everything across the pipeline all the way to Europe. But then I opened it up in WebDirect and everything rendered instantly, just as fast as it would render here. It was mind-blowing what the difference was. So depending on the environment, if you're looking at a WAN and you design FileMaker WebDirect properly, you're going to get better performance with it than a native client. Then you have perform script on server. So those things that you can't perform with WebDirect, you can perform by taking advantage of perform script on server. So really, it's not just perform script on server, it's also script scheduling. You can schedule scripts to happen on the server to update certain things in WebDirect for you, and you can also execute perform script on server. But the server-side scripting is really your dear friend in this technology. Get to know that. We also use some plugins. There's a lot of server-side plugins, because as you know, you can't really apply the plugins to a browser for this technology. But there's a lot of good server-side plugins that work. We use base elements for encryption of credit cards and passwords and things for momentary basis. We also use it for SMTP email, because I prefer to use that for SMTP email than the built-in one in FileMaker. And we use 360works Plastic for credit card processing. And there's many other plugins. But I'm going to tell you, these two companies give you tremendous support if you need any help. They're really good, and everybody knows that. So when we go to a login screen, I have changed the in and out experience of WebDirect a little bit. This is how you'd log into one of my systems. You'd go to mydomain.com/in.php with a parameter name and a parameter. We're not actually going to the native FileMaker Direct menu. That would look something more like this, where you're going to mydomain.com/fmi/webd pound or webd/your file name. So we're not doing that. We're actually redirecting people into a PHP file and then into WebDirect and getting much better control both in and out of WebDirect. And now it starts to become like a regular website, right? Oops, let me go back. So here's an example of logging in. If you look real closely at the URL on the top, it's not your normal string. We created a custom website just for logging in to one of our systems. And look, it's a pretty sunset background. They're actually looking at a website we custom built just for logging in. You're looking at it in a web viewer in WebDirect, right? And look at that dialog box that we're using for logging in. It's pretty. I did a little bit of customization, make it pretty and blue and change the fonts and the statements on it. So I made a little bit of change to WebDirect. And you get a really nice presentation for logging in. I have to say a little about my history with WebDirect to know how I got here. I learned the hard way. I did this immediately when it was released in 13. I had no peers. I had no forums. I had nobody. Everybody I'd ask, like, hey, can you help me on this? They're like, oh, you're on your own. It's brand new, right? So I stumbled and I fell. I fell in pits of fire. I had all kinds of challenges to overcome. I was on a very large project for a large manufacturing company in America. And again, millions of records, hundreds of thousands of emails. We had a very rich interface. We had like 14 tabs across each layout, and we had all kinds of portals and slide controls. And truth be known, I was not very aware of theming and styling back then, and all of it combined slowed the thing up so the performance was terrible, and I was really scared what's going to happen to this project. So I had performance issues. I had latency on the server because I was running like 40 perform script on server scripts at the very same time, and the server was bogging down, and everything was coming down on my head. So why does this matter? I want you to understand the pathway I got to get there to avoid these kind of things. What I did immediately is I came to DevCon, and I looked around for help, and I came across this wonderful engineer by the name of John Thatcher, who took an hour and a half of his time in the middle of the developers conference to coach me on this. I said, help. And he said, look, let's try this technique. And he explained a few things to me, one of which was how to build an events queue so that instead of running all these scripts on the server at once, you create a log file, a queue file, where you put the parameters into the record and have a script schedule come along that's running every minute and look for records that haven't been hit and let it run all the scripts for you one at a time. And this ended up becoming not only really helpful with the approaches we invented, but I ended up giving 3 DevCon sessions on server performance, and not WebDirect performance, but top call statistics and how to work with scripting on server. Phenomenal, because the server world will work a lot better if you just run 1 or a few scripts at once and run them in order. It'll go really, really fast. But if you try to run 40 at once, you could run into problems. So streamline it. So I want to talk about planning in WebDirect. Careful planning. We always start with a color palette. The project we're working on is for a company called Spire Payment Solutions out of Portland, Oregon. And they run events for nonprofits, for fundraising, auctions, silent auctions. They help people process credit cards. And they had a particular color theme they were already using, which is kind of a wine-colored red. We went to adobe-kuler.com, K-U-L-E-R, and found several themes that would work and blended them together, and we just developed our color palette first, about 20 colors. Before we did anything in requirements, okay, what are your colors? Like, wow, what is this backwards? Let's get the colors together first. And then we built the theme. We have one theme throughout the entire project. And then we built styles. And we have hundreds and hundreds of styles. But we did all of that before we even collected requirements on the other stuff, because we'd had a lot of conversations, a lot of whiteboard drawings. We built all this first. Why does it matter? Because if you get this out of the way first, you're not going to have to come and revisit it. Everything can be designed when you move forward and you're free to work. Every single image except the logo on our layouts is actually a button, which was an SVG icon. Even if it does nothing, it's a button, because that being themed and styled properly, you can change the color of the button really quick. It's going to be really, really fast. There is a wonderful, I think Todd Geist's company has got a website called svginator.com, where if you have an SVG that's not compatible with FileMaker, you can drop it into that website and it will instantly return, in most cases, an SVG compatible graphic that you can embed in your system for your styles. Next thing in careful planning is relational architecture. Now, I happen to be a fan of anchor buoy relational graph management. I've spoken on that a bit. You may not agree with me. It doesn't matter. The idea is to get your relational architecture down first. Now, that's important in any FileMaker design, but it's really going to be more important in WebDirect, so you don't have to revisit it when things change. Also have to consider your file architecture. Whether you're using the session model, like I do, where you rarefy people from the data wherever possible, or you're using the distribution model, or the real famous separation model, or the new model we're using with this project, which we call the staged deployment model, where we're building product after product, but they all tie together as we build them and releasing them one at a time. We plan it out ahead of time. So plan this stuff first. Also your navigation. Plan your navigation, because especially if you're using a multi-file system, navigation is not something you're going to want to have to change in the middle of the project, which I have found myself in trouble on, in fact, on this very project when he changed the path. So it matters for your planning so that you don't have to rework, and so that your work is actually a lot faster when all this stuff is in place. And especially if you're going to do something like I'm going to show you, which is dynamic redirect out of WebDirect, you want to make sure that this is planned so you can push this logic through to all the files with PHP. And I'm going to give you the PHP files, so you don't have to learn how to do that code. I'm going to give you the files. And they're very simple. They're a few lines long. Actually, Mike Duncan put them together for me. So all you have to do is change a couple things in the PHP, like the name of your file and the name of your server, and you're done. Few gotchas around web viewers, if you're using web viewers in WebDirect, because web viewers in FileMaker Pro may work one way, they work a little different in WebDirect. You have to look out for matching protocols. If you've got an HTTP server that is not SSL encrypted, then you can't reach to a website in a browser, right? Which is what a web viewer is in WebDirect. You can't get to a site that's HTTPS, so you have to go HTTP to HTTP. Likewise, if you have an HTTPS SSL encrypted server, you can only really get to HTTPS websites. As far as I know, because of some security rollouts that came out around February of this year on all browsers. Hopefully that will change. So don't mix your protocols when you're going in and out of FileMaker WebDirect. Another thing is there is some considerations that Brian's brought up to my attention, that if you've got web viewer charting, which we're doing, there are some HTML substitutions required. So if you have a pound symbol in your code in JavaScript in a web viewer in WebDirect, that has to be replaced with a %23, especially because we're using JSON coloring, which may look something like this in FileMaker Pro. The first color there is a £1921BF. That has to change if you're using WebDirect with a web viewer to a %23 1921BF. Now, Brian said that there's some way workarounds around that. We can talk about that afterward. But there's some of the things that you need to be careful to look out for. We do a conditional, with the code we have right now, a conditional calculation that says if you're using FileMaker Pro, use the pound sign. If it's WebDirect, just do a substitution. Make sense? Screen flash in WebDirect. It does exist. So the first place to stop having screen flash is when you log into the system. So the good old file options dialog box, pull that up when you first build your file and look for that little box that says hide all toolbars and make sure that that's checked. That will prevent screen flash on open of the system. The toolbars will be gone. You'll have a nice full web page available, right? But don't worry about losing those toolbars because you can always script to open them back up if you want to. In our system, we don't let anybody have them at all in WebDirect. But you can always script to open them, but that will stop screen flash right off the bat. Something more serious we ran into recently is there can be screen flash between detail and list views. And let's say you've got a bunch of users. They're looking at detail view, and they're editing, making edits on a found set. And you've got somebody else looking at, one or many people, looking at a list view of the same found set. And somebody makes an edit in the detail view and then commits the record. That entire list view is going to refresh. It's going to roll down. The uncomfortable part of that is that's fine if you've only got 15 records. But if you're looking at 60 records in a list view in WebDirect, and somebody makes an edit in a detail view and commits the record, your screen's going to flash, and quite likely your cursor's going to go to the top, and you're going to lose your place in the list. And it's, whoa, that's frustrating, right? So we got into massive user testing not too long ago. And we discovered that, and I'm like, oh, that's bad. How am I going to get around that? So we have a workaround for that. What you do is you build a shadow table to your data table. In this case, the only view we're concerned about at an event are guests. We're going to be checking people in and out. We're going to be charging them stuff. We only have limited layouts, and the only ones that we really care about on list view are going to be guests. So we build a one-to-one relationship with a shadow table to the guest table. So I call it EGST for guest, event guest, and EGST-est for a guest, event guest shadow table. And I only put a few fields in it. So you put minimal fields. We only display 10, so I got the ID and and a who created it, when field, some audit fields, and then I've got 10 data fields. Not very much, and they're all indexed. But you don't assign cascading delete between that relationship. One-to-one relationship, but on the shadow table side, you do not turn on cascading delete. So when you delete a guest record, that shadow table is still there for a little while. Neither when you add a new guest record do you add the shadow table record at the same time, because that will cause screen flash. Both of those will. Oh, this is interesting. So how are we going to manage it, right? Instead, in the shadow table, very simple, you have an update routine that's only updating minimal data, and it will be on a script schedule that's running, in our case, every minute or two, whatever we determined. If you could do it longer, that's fine. I think we've decided that every 2 minutes, that thing is going to come through, and it's going to look to add records or delete records in the shadow table if a guest record has been deleted, or it's going to update any edits that were made. So it goes through really 3 loops in the script schedule real quick. Add the shadow table records that are needed, delete the ones you don't need, and then update those that are left for the whole system for every event that's open. And it might be a few hundred records, but it happens lightning fast on the server. And what is really cool is that the users, they're in the list view, And they get to know that, oh yeah, every 2 minutes it's going to refresh. They get used to it. It's a comfort zone because it's predictable to the second every time. And meanwhile, when you make your edits and you make all your changes in those guest tables, there is 0 screen flash in that list view. So this is the cure that I've come up with. And it's not that hard. When I discovered it and went through my little panic and did all my research, within a day it was completely solved. Does this make sense? Great. So when you're navigating from that list view to a data view, obviously you're navigating from a shadow record to a data record in your one-to-one relationship, and you're navigating from the detail view to the list view. You're navigating back to the shadow set. We'll kind of realize that when you're navigating, you have to build in some scripting logic to know that you're going to an actually different table or a different found set. Let's talk about window management. Card windows. This is pasted right out of the FileMaker WebDirect user guide. FileMaker WebDirect doesn't support window styles. That means it doesn't support card windows at the current time, right? So you have to have an alternative to do that. Why does that matter? Because there's times when you want the focus of your user to be at a particular place. You don't want them going somewhere else. You want them to do a particular action. You want to control it, yet you want them to see that they're still in context to whatever they were doing. And that can be done. There's some workarounds. I've got a little demo here for you. It's called the masking popover. Actually, the technical name is Demo WebDirect Popover. This is one of the files you can take home and play with and just explore on my Dropbox site. And all the files, all the demo files have the same account name and password, which is DevCon 2019. So here it is. We're going to log in from a menu that I've got. And I've got this nice dark gray text in the background. And I've got a popover button at the bottom. You can see on the URL that I'm actually going straight to that file. So this is not one that's redirected. So there's some text in the background. And there's a popover button, but it's not a popover button. It's a regular button. And then there's a popover button sitting above it, a little tiny dot if you can see it in that circle. So I tend to not use popover buttons directly. I always have a scripted button that can validate what's going on before I open the popover in case something needs to be done or some globals need to be initiated. There's this blue border we put, so this is kind of sitting over the front. This is in WebDirect. Yet, I can click to release it with the buttons, the cancel or the execute button. Or the problem here is I can click off of it. I don't have control. You can get out of it however you want, and that's kind of a problem, right? I did this also in FileMaker. Well, it's written in FileMaker, but I'm going to show it to you natively in FileMaker, pulling it up here and showing you how that works. In FileMaker, the same effect, except that look at the border around the edge. You've got a nice little drop shadow that is able to design as a style on the popover, but you can't do that in WebDirect. It doesn't render. I'm a little sad about that, but so let me think of some other way of doing it, right? So the shadow's lost in FileMaker. Go into the next one. All I did was enlarge that same popover to fill most of the screen. And you'll notice that to the very top left and to the top, it's 4 or 5 pixels from the top. You cannot get a popover to jam into the walls. There's always going to be a little gap of 4 or 5 pixels. Top, left, right, and in bottom. And still, even though it's large, I can click off to the side and dismiss the popover, which is not really the effect I want. So we went to something else. But it also has, this is the third approach. So we've got a popover here that's all the way to the top. We've got a 70% screen tint to the popover. You can see the border. I left the blue border so you can see how it doesn't quite go to the edge, right? But what's really cool is you've got a script trigger that is on object exit that prevents you from leaving the popover. So if I click anywhere, I'm clicking all over the place. I'll even pull the window down a little bit and try to click off of the popover because you could see the edge of it in blue. It's not closing because every time I tap to close it, the on object exit says, no, I'm not going to let you. That's pretty simple, and that's in the demo file. But you can use the cancel or the execute buttons to get rid of it. I also want to show it to you without the border so you can get a, well, actually, here it is in FileMaker. I want to show you the technique. And extend that a little bit, and you can see that popover goes way down to the bottom. That's the actual design. Just like in WebDirect, In FileMaker, you can't click off it. You have to have a button to release the popover. But in layout mode, if I do a select all, and then I show the popover, you can see at the very top, it can't exactly push all the way to the top. But at the bottom right corner, the popover is way off of the layout. It's like an inch below the layout bottom. So I'm going to move it a little bit. And you'll see that if you shrink it in, you can see the edges of the layout to the right and the bottom. So what I do is I just drag that popover off the screen, both to the right and the bottom, and that will effectively push it to the top. I can't push it all the way to the left, but it'll push it to the top. And it kind of gives it a full screen effect. So this next one is going to show it without the border so you can get a sense, right? I took the border off so you get a sense. I get a tint back. So we use white as a design, so we're doing a white 70% transparency. If you're using dark colors, you might use a dark gray or a different color. But this looks well for us. I like the white design. Most of my customers do. So it looks really clean. On the last one, I think, we're just going to look at a bit of a review of how to build that, really simple. So you've got a background that's dimmed out by 70% transparency. You've got a script trigger, keeping the popover open. You've got the popover button, the actual popover button is pushed to the top of the layout. You're tying that to a scripted button through which you can do other actions before opening the popover, such as validation. You've got, open or cancel ones, and then you've dragged it off to the very bottom. So that's just kind of a look at the different elements involved in that. Does that make sense? Pretty simple. I want to talk about the navigation technique we're using. We have one file through which everybody logs into this entire system, although it's a multi-file system. We call it Luft. We've got a lot of different words for the word wind, right, or breeze. The whole system's called breeze. So Luft, which is the gatekeeper, is where everybody logs in through the system. And I'll send you a long encrypted URL that has a PHP name, and it has all these complex parameters that are all kind of obfuscated, made obscure so you can't tell what they are, which will tell where you're going to go, what you're going to look at, what record, what layout, what found set, what file you're going to go to, all pushed into the opening gateway file. Then we have another file called Makani, which is where people will register for an event. And all they'll enter into that on the website is their name, their address, their credit card information. It's immediately encrypted and then immediately tokenized, and the encryption's removed. And it happens really fast, and they get a message of that. They can add friends and users. So it's just users, names, addresses, and credit cards, right? So they'll log into that, and they'll be guided into Makani from Luft, depending on what credentials we've sent them to do it. We have another file called Zephyr, which is a little more full functionality. That's where we take an import of all the values we got from the registration file, and we run credit card processes for already known amounts of charges. So we run credit card charges, and we tokenize those cards that hadn't been tokenized for whatever reason. We check on that, we validate, and we make reports. Fairly simple system, although I've been working on this project for over a year. Then we have a third, basically fully functional auction management system called TradeWinds, which is still under development. But as we build it, all I have to do is tie it to the Luft file. And then we can add that functionality without having to redesign stuff. All I have to do is add a couple relationships to Luft, add a couple pointers, add a different username, make some changes in that file. Really simple. And it's a one-way push, and the navigation doesn't change. We also are coming out with golf management software for golf fundraisers, and a full-blown donor management system, and then 2 or 3 other projects coming down the pike. So as we add other systems, we can build it into the same thing in this staged deployment fashion using PHP to get people in and out. What we're using for deployment, you won't believe this. We're using these very inexpensive, like $65 Samsung notebooks, all running Google Chrome OS, and obviously we're running FileMaker WebDirect in Chrome, which works really well on an inexpensive Chromebook. It's 11.6-inch screen. So it's easy. You can load that up and preset them with whatever website you want to send them to and ship them out. We're using hybrid layouts. So what that means, a hybrid layout is, instead of having a layout for FileMaker Pro Advanced and a layout for WebDirect, we're doing them both in one place. So we've optimized the look and feel so it'll look really well on a desktop or a laptop or a Chromebook, whether it's in a browser or FileMaker Pro Advanced, we can do it all in one layout. It works great on the desktop, works great on the laptop, and even on the Chromebook. Next thing is object anchoring. I call it anchoring, FileMaker calls it auto sizing. So this dialog box that's on tab 1 in your inspector panel has the options for stretching or floating objects on the screen. I say in WebDirect, I don't use it anyhow much, but in WebDirect, I never use it. So to the right and bottom, you never want to do that. You only want to anchor things to the top and left, because if you do, you're going to get screen refresh every time the user decides to stretch the corner of the window or resize it. That's a real uncomfortable experience for users, because every time you change anything on an interface in WebDirect, it's giving a message back to the server. I need to repoll and get more information. You're going to have screen flash. So if you remove those anchors, it doesn't matter what you do with your window, you'll get no screen flash. Okay? Next item is real estate. You need to plan your object placement, principally because there is no object click-through in WebDirect. If you have a field with a button over it, you can click into the button, but you can't get into the field. If you have a field you want to get into with a button behind it, like maybe in a portal row and you've got an invisible button behind all the fields, that button's never going to execute because you're only going to hit the top layer thing. This takes some rehearsal and remembrance. Oh yeah, I can't stack objects. It's a constant reminder you can't stack objects. So you get used to a methodology in which it doesn't happen. We have two terms we use, shared real estate and dedicated real estate. Dedicated real estate means we know we've designed the system and this spot is only going to be a button, or it's only going to be a logo, or it's only going to be whatever it's going to be, and you're never going to place anything else on there. Although I have hundreds of objects with hide conditions, I'm very careful where they're sitting. So if you're using the shared version, which means I have two things that I have to superimpose. Sometimes I'll have a button, but I'll have a logo behind it, and I don't care because I'm just going to display the logo in certain conditions and then hide it to show a button under certain conditions. But all I really care about the functionality is that you can click that button when you need to. So especially when you have shared real estate, you need to look out for stacking order and the positioning on the screen of your objects. Let's demonstrate that. We use, for our navigation within the system, not between the files or getting in and out, but within the system, we're using a very simple variable-driven button bar approach. So that's here in blue. We have variables on it so I can change the names depending on the conditions or the user or the platform. The names of the tabs can be dynamic. We break our interface up into sections. A lot of you are familiar with these, but there's a header bar at the top, which is that strip at the top that has the logo on the left, and then next to it is a re-login button that only some people see. And on the right, there are system-wide icons to do different things. Then we have the navigation bar, and below that is a control bar. The control bar section will only hold icons that are specific to the found set you're in, if it's a list view, or to the record you're in, if it's a detail view. So that's like a lower level, it's kind of a hierarchical approach, right? Then of course, we'll have column headers in a list view or portal row headers in a detail view. And then you'll have a body and you may have a footer and sub-summary sections. But all I really want you to pay attention to is this header bar, the navigation bar, and the control bar for our purposes here. I'm going to show you that same thing in layout. Oh, it looks a little different, right? So in layout mode, you can see in the upper left, I have a global field where I'll stamp a logo, which might be a different logo according to what event we're displaying, right? And then we have banner messaging. And banner messaging for us is a global field in a globals table that's referenced without a relationship, shown on the screen as a merge field, and then a conditional formatting added to it that will show different colors of the banner depending on what message I sent. And all of that is tied to a button so you can click it and release it. And that appears with an on-object modify script and an on-timer script tied to that, so that message, whenever it comes up for 7 seconds and goes away. So the user never has to release it. It's not like a system dialog that you've got to release to move forward. So these are very graceful for most operations. They just tell you, oh yeah, failure, or yeah, your credit card was processed, yeah, we charged your card, yeah, we logged you in, whatever it is. And in the back end, we have a table of all the different messages, and they're all assigned a different color. And then what we do when people log in is we load that entire table into a JSON array. And then when we go to give a message, I just say, well, send that message to that script. It populates that. It extracts the JSON, which is then interpreted by conditional formatting to say, make it this color. And sometimes the text is white, and sometimes it's black or blue. So we can control the text and the color background in really slick conditional formatting, really slick banner messaging to keep the interface clean and simple. Then we have a search bar that only appears, obviously, in find mode, so you can cancel or perform the search. The cool thing here is look at these little square boxes in the corner. Each field in a list view has an on-object-enter script trigger tied to it that only works in browse mode. So if you're in browse mode, you click on it, that field gets grabbed real quick, the cursor's kicked out, the whole row gets highlighted. I've given a 0.3 pause so the user can see that I highlighted that row, and then it takes you to the detail record. Then I don't have to have a select button on the left. I don't have to worry about trying to put an invisible button behind everything. And then in layout mode, I can go right into that field and do a search. So I got the ability to use the same real estate for navigation or searches very cleanly. If you're using a detail view, that same idea of that on-object-enter script trigger is tied to the portal itself, not to any fields, not to any buttons. So when you click into anything in that portal in a row, that's going to kick off first. So if you go into a field, before you get into the field, the script trigger fires, which all it does is capture the ID of the record, the related record in that portal row. So you already know what you got, and you can instantly highlight the row with any kind of coloring you want in the background with conditional formatting. And you could also immediately navigate to a record. If you have buttons on the right, like I show a little global web navigation icon, and a copy icon and a delete icon, you click those. By the time you click that button, the on-object script trigger has already fired. You've captured the ID. Those buttons don't have to get an ID. All they have to do is commit the record, perform the action. So it's slick. You don't have to tie script triggers to anything but the portal. That really works it works well in FileMaker Pro, Advanced, great, and it works really well in WebDirect. It's fast. So in find mode, there's the same list view where obviously the perform search bar is on, and then we have this nice little highlight. We like to use a bright yellow, so as you tab across and search, you get to see which field you're in. We always use a bright yellow. That seems to be my color choice for editing a field in any layout, but it works really well in list view. Get your attention. If I take that same list view and I show it to you in the 3 different modes, browse mode, find mode, and layout mode, you can see how different it looks. I'm going to break this down for you. So first of all, in the green, you can see in the right, I have a little stretchy bar appearance. That's just to adjust the window. It only appears in FileMaker Pro Advanced if I move things out, obviously. It has no use in WebDirect, so I make it disappear according to the application version call that I'm making. Other things will disappear too. In the upper left, I have a login, a re-login button that I don't show, obviously, in find mode because I don't want you to re-log in find mode. That doesn't appear for some users, and it doesn't appear on certain layouts, and it doesn't appear in different modes. So I have multiple layers of conditionality of appearance or hide conditions for every object in the system. On the far right are the system-wide icons. The gears for going to different dimensions, which I will explain for different layout systems, and then a logout button. They don't appear in find mode, so that makes find mode clean. The search bar obviously only appears in find mode. It doesn't appear in browse mode. We have a little search magnifying glass in the upper right to initiate find mode, again, because all the toolbars are hidden. And then on the upper left, my logo appears, or whatever customer's logo I might want to appear, or the name of the event I might want to appear there. And that's sitting in the same real estate that the search bar is appearing in below. But because there's no action on that, where it says data experience, there's no action ever taken on it, I don't mind hiding it and sharing the real estate. And there's only limited places where I'll share real estate. The system we're building, we build what we call multiple dimensions. And a dimension is a set of layouts that have a different coloring theme and a different usage. Maybe different people are entering it, or you're doing different levels of functionality. So the administrators get a blue bar. The detail views are almost the same, but a little different. But this way I have separate control. The managers have a wine-colored bar, and the configuration guy, the guy who's got the gold control, has got a configuration section. So we've got 3 different dimensions, but they're all set up to the same thing. The little gear on the upper right, you can see, if you're on a red screen, it's a blue gear to tell you to go to the blue screens. If you're on the blue one, it goes to red. And then you have the gold available only for the people in blue because there's a hierarchy of authority. We also have done this on another system where there's only 3 tabs for volunteers. There's 7 tabs for the managers. So picture 7 list views, 7 detail views for them. That's 14. Configuration only has 7 at the bottom. The volunteers have 3 and 3, so that's like whatever, 26, 28 layouts or so. Not very many. Very easily controlled. What we've done on the manager and the configuration screens is we put a double equals after the 3rd tab to kind of intuitively tell you that, oh yeah, my volunteers only get to see what's left of this, I get to see what's right. So it becomes a subtle, intuitive sense of reminding yourself what they see versus what I see. Not that I'm pitching this particular type of design or any of these particular elements, but things to think about to make it easy for your users, especially when they're in a web browser. And in this case, we're talking about uneducated people who don't know much about computers, maybe older crowd that is volunteers, and we want to make it very, very simple for them. How many people here work on Mac and work with numbers? It's got to be some, right? That's quite a few. Okay. How many people have tried to import numbers into FileMaker? It doesn't work, right? So FileMaker is not designed at this time, to my best of my knowledge, for numbers to be a compatible format for data import. Kind of a problem, right? But not, because we put together something to do this. And I think you helped me put that together. You put together the demo. Brian Weeman did that for me. So he put together a really wonderful demo for me. This is great. We're going to show it to you. Again, like all the other systems, it's just DevCon 2019 for both the account name and password. We're going to go right into it. What we're doing is we're logging into a file. I give a little credits to Brian on here. It's going to pause. Where we're tying to a website called cloudconvert.com with which you can get a free membership, and they just give you a token. It's very fast. Just takes you a few minutes. You drop in a numbers file into a container field. And look, that says numbers. It's a numbers field. Then you hit execute. And you're polling the Cloud Convert website in a loop. It takes less than 10 seconds. They return an XLS, in our case, we've chosen an XLSX, Excel file. They return it, we poll it, we download it, we stick it in the container field. And just to prove to you that that really is an Excel document and it's not a numbers file, I'm downloading it in WebDirect. I'm going to put it on my desktop. I'm going to open it and show it to you. I might have to chase it down a little bit. It wants to pop off. What I've done is I've imported all the names of all the speakers at the session. There's 84 speakers at this conference, 84 speakers, and that doesn't include the staff. Wow. And I put fake addresses and fake emails on there, but I put them all in the spreadsheet, and we're going to use them later on in another import where I'm going to show you this in the context of our actual system. So pretty cool, right? And again, this demo is available to you for free, and you can take it and now cure issues with numbers. Let me show you how we actually put that into real-world use. We're going to look at the Breeze system for Spire Payment Solution. Again, really elegant logon. We made a special web page just for WebDirect. I'm going to log in. That's fast. That's WebDirect. That's going through PHP and the gateway file, and it's doing all cool stuff. And immediately, we're going through the interface. I'm looking at an event. Probably what I'm going to do is pause this at a certain point. I'm putting in a dollar value, and you can see the chart dynamically changing, right? And that's in a web viewer and WebDirect with some simple JavaScript that we just pasted into the back. And then I'm going to go to a list view, and I'm going to just toggle the sort order. You see how fast that sorts? Let me, if I can do this. I'm going to stop in the list view just for a second, and I'm going to try. So the list view, again, this is a shadow table, and it's got like 9 or 10 columns across. And you can see on the right, there's open balance and charged amount, and whether it's been accepted or declined. And we have a thumbs up on the 3rd column for grab and go, which means, yeah, he's got a valid credit card, or no, he doesn't. Or the diamond is, we've got an encrypted credit card, but it didn't pass tokenization, try to run it again. But because it's a small table, and everything's indexed, the sorting, the finds, everything is really, really fast. Really? So we'll continue a little bit. Instead of going to an event, what I'm going to do here, okay, in the event screen, I am going to grab a numbers file. Again, this is a numbers file. You can see it says numbers right there. What we're going to do now is do the same thing I showed you in the demo, but this time, and it's going to take a minute. What I'm doing is I'm importing it. Well, first I'm converting it to Excel. Then I'm importing it to a staging table. Then I'm validating that the header row is in the right order, because I don't want to have, if somebody sent me a bad spreadsheet, we don't want to import bad data that's mixed up and screw up our database. So we validate the headers. If that's wrong, we don't even bring in the data. I actually have a system in the back that allows you to have different header names from different lists, so you could say first name or first or name, and it'll understand it intelligently. So we're going to bring it into that staging table. Then we're going to validate that each person's combination of first name, last name, and email address is unique throughout the system. Otherwise, we don't bring in the data. We throw it away from the staging table. Then we're going to check and make sure they have a unique bid number, because they've all requested a certain bid number for the auction. And if it's no good, we're going to assign you the next available bid number and throw away the one you wanted. And all of that happens in 1 minute. Going to cloud, converting it, staging it, normalizing it, validating on several levels. And this could happen faster. What I actually did, I'm showing some sorting. Okay. What we're going to do is pick my record instead of going looking at the list view. I have a couple records in there with unique bid numbers. I already have, because I don't have time to show you the credit card tokenization. I'm just going to run a charge for $1. It's a real charge on a real credit card, right? You can see that number there in that pop-up. That's not my credit card number. Don't worry, you can't take that. That is a token, right? It has to be combined with all the PCI compliant stuff for it to work. But I'm going to run a charge on the server from WebDirect. It takes 5 seconds. And then the banner message comes up and says successful payment. And I happen to make this particular message in green because it's a happy one, right? And then I click it to make it go away. And so you get to see that again. I'm going to go ahead and refund that charge because I want my $1 back. About 5 seconds, it runs, banner message again comes green. If it failed, it would be red. If something else happened, it might be blue. Okay? So there's a lot more to this system that I could show you. And if you want to see that before we actually break, or after we break, I can go into the details. But what I really want to do, if I can get there, bear with me, is show you on the right, when I go to log out of this system, you're going to see it click on the right, and we have a pre-assigned website to log you out to. And it's not going to go to FileMaker's homepage. It's sending you to the event for the record that you were logged into. If you were logged in as a different organization or for a different event, we would send you to a different web page. So dynamically, I can send you wherever I want for any user in the system. That make sense? I'm going to show you that to you now. Use a little PHP. It uses some HTML and some session variables, and you don't need to understand any of this stuff. The basic, and this implied JavaScript that FileMaker manages for you. Within their file management system, all the JavaScript is handled. So this demo is available to you. It's called WebDirect Redirect. Of course, you've got to put this up on a server somewhere to test it. Same username and password. I'm going to try to log in that directly by clicking on it. And I am not going to be able to get in. It's going to say welcome, and then it's going to say sorry. Because I didn't give you the permission to log into that file off the FileMaker menu. I've got to give you an encrypted URL that's been obfuscated in order for you to get there. So if I come in, and my browser has it memorized, so I'm going to look for that URL with the parameters passed. It's going to come back to the same file and successfully get me in. Mike Duncan put this together for me. Wonderful tool, wonderful concept. I'm logging out by the default one, which was CRE01.com. That's the website we put up. I'm going to come back in and try another one. It says welcome. I've got a little select, which says, so in lavender, I'm selecting DevCon 2019. You can see it in the big gray bar, and I'm going to log out now, and I go to the DevCon website. This goes on and on. You can add unlimited different ones. And what's happening when you do this, actually, I'm just going to stop it. The dark gray, the large gray bar in the middle is showing you the actual URL you're redirecting people to. And how it happens is that when you come into the system, you come in through in.php, which has in the code says when you're done, go to out.php. And in the middle of the session, you're pushing that URL in the gray bar into that tiny little web viewer in blue outline here, which you normally would hide. You don't need to show it. It doesn't need to be accessible. Every time you go into any layout, the first thing you do is you push that URL into it. So if they log out immediately when getting into any layout, that layout knows that that's tied to a session variable loaded to the browser that's connected to your server. All that technology is a little over my head, actually. But that session variable calls the session.php file to know that when you do log out, use the out.php file to send you where I told you to. So it's kind of a loop between the in, the out, and the session. And it works really cool. So every time I log out of this file, all I'm doing when I click that select is I'm pushing that URL into the web viewer so it knows. This time I'm going to the sessions layout for FileMaker. Enough of that. Does that make sense to a few people? Yes. Thank you. I found it very confusing at first, but you got 3 PHP files. You put that WebDirect, that web viewer on your layouts. You take the scripting that I've given you, you build it into your system, and you'll get very familiar real fast. And it is one powerful tool to extend WebDirect to feel like a normal website, like you're coming in and out of. Those are the files, and this is, those are the files, and this is where they're located. What I've done in the conf folder is I've removed a couple JavaScript files. I've removed the index.html file. I placed these there. I didn't throw everything away. I put them in my archive folders, a couple different versions, and then you've got your web config file you leave. So that's all that's in the conf folder. All you got to do is do this simple replace, and it works. So in future versions of this project, we're going to have a tablet and iPhone version. We're not using FileMaker Go. We're using WebDirect for everything. So that's obviously a redesign of layouts for tablets, iPhones, and Androids. And then I really wanted to show this with you, but there's just not enough time. We're doing SMS messaging, two-way SMS, text messaging. It actually is between FileMaker server and the phones, but you're using WebDirect to initiate it. So you can use WebDirect to push SMS. So we're going to say, would you like to donate to, first of all, we only send out the SMS messages to people who have opted in for a particular organization or event, so it's legal, right? Would you like to donate $100 to Nancy's Breast Fund campaign? And you can write back, maybe or no. You say maybe, and we write back to you because we have a robot that's telling us, oh, maybe, okay, so would you like to be on the list? Or maybe you want to donate $50 or a custom amount, enter here. And they say yes. And we say, thank you, we've charged your card for this much. Please keep on the list. Or whatever they might say, we have a little limited amount of robot ability to determine what response to give bidirectionally. And you can do that all cool. And what we're doing that is with the help of SMS, which I think is in New Zealand. And they're very, very helpful, great tech support, another wonderful product to help you do that kind of stuff. So the demo files have the Cloud Convert demo, the Web Popover demo, the WebDirect Redirect demo, and the Styles demo. Now we've got over 100 hours that this file we're giving you to help name your styles in a kind of an encrypted fashion and play with it. I really wanted to show that. There's just so much material, right? And then, of course, there's the PHP files in, out, and session, and a number of other instructional reference documents. And for those of you who are interested in a little bit of customization, take a look at some of the files there. I've got a couple spreadsheets with some wonderful references. There's the link to the Dropbox. Should be all available to you. I'm John at dataexperience.com. If you're doing WebDirect and you've got questions or help or anything, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help you. And I just want to remind you to fill out your speaker reviews. That's real important for selecting the appropriate people to speak. Please fill it out. And I really want to thank you for coming. We will open for questions. And you know what? It's 11:59, so I know we're a little late. But thank you, and come up or ask questions if you like. And T-shirts for those of you that are 18 certified. Come grab one of your size if you can find it. Can you put the Dropbox folder back up there? Sure, I think I can do that. Uh-huh. I will try. Questions? I don't know if we have microphones, so. What are the demo username and passwords? It's devcon lowercase 2019 for both, for all the files, it should be. I'm trying. There you go. Other questions? What do we use for the credit card for the tool? We're using 360works plastic plugin. Great tech support. Does that answer your question? Sir?
So you say you have something coming up with going phones and Android and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Any comments on that? Very frustrating, or it's just a matter of figuring out the stage or how to go in?
So your question is, we're coming up with designing for Android and phones in WebDirect, and is it frustrating? Are there issues to come across? Is that the question? Yeah, we haven't done it yet, right? So just like anything else, even if you're using FileMaker Go, you have limited real estate, right? And so you have to remove some stuff, and you probably have to also be considering what orientation is. Similar design to FileMaker Go, only you're using a browser, and all of that is still really, to be honest, quite ahead of me in my path. But from what I've done with FileMaker Go, I think I have a sense of what to do. I think the real frustration is you can't have a lot of information on any given screen. You really have to pick and choose what you're going to do. And we're going to use it for limited functionality, like I want to bid on that chocolate cake, and my bid number is XYZ, and go, and it's $14. And that's what we're going to use it for, very limited context. So it should be contextually applied, not trying to do everything under the sun in a phone or a tablet. Really, I think always that's the case. If you find one, take it, yeah. Come get a t-shirt, sir. Ask a question, get a t-shirt. Yeah, and that's what I was doing when I started. Yeah, I had a t-shirt company. Sir?
So one of the things I found with WebDirect is users like to use the back arrow and forward arrow in the browsers.
Yeah. You can't use the back and forward. And in our system, what's really cool about using the PHP, you can't use back and forwards in WebDirect. You're going to log yourself out of the system. But by using the PHP instead of the native thing, it's going to send you back immediately to the login screen for that particular system, which is a very convenient thing. At least, oh, I get to log right back in because it didn't work, right? Instead of sending you out to limbo. But you can't use back and forward. That's unless somebody else has wonderful insight that I don't have, really that's not a capacity of FileMaker WebDirect in a browser. T-shirt free if you want. Take one. Sir? A little louder or come up. I need you to come up. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Can you refresh the browser? No. You don't want to do a refresh on the browser. That might just as well log you out. And what it will do, I believe, is leave the session open and knock you out of it so the server still thinks you're in a session and you're not. Don't have a cure for that. Sir? Free t-shirt if you ask a question. Come get one. I am using everything on Amazon Web Service. I've got 4 Amazon Web Servers, and my customers, I set them up on Amazon Web Servers, and they monitor them themselves. I'm using a T2 large with 8 gigabytes of RAM, and I think that's 4 or 8 processors. That's just our thing. But I would not deploy any FileMaker WebDirect with a server with less than 8 gigabytes of RAM. And if you're going to have more, it should be more. But processors are even more important, right? Even more is network connection speed and the speed of the hard drive, so you have to have SSD, always SSD. I think the first thing they say is SSD, then processors, and then RAM in that kind of order, I think, right? So I just kind of overamp everything. And I have 4 servers, and it's a fair rate every month for what I've got. Free t-shirt if you like one. Sorry.
Have you ever had an in-app or in-WebDirect notification system so that you notify users you need to approve this document?
Oh yeah, the question is, do I have a notification system in WebDirect, right? The very first thing I did was for a very large manufacturing company that will go unnamed, where it's working in Canada. It's pretty much the largest manufacturing company in the world. Canada, Mexico, and the United States, servers all over on one server in the middle of the country. And what it is a hierarchical notification system for issues we have on the floor, right? So it's saying, you got to send it to your manager, we got to get a truck to pick these units up, move them over here, and do something with them. And that has, any given day, thousands of emails going out, natively in FileMaker server, right, on the server. And then millions of records and tens of thousands of issues with millions of individual units that have to be addressed. So yeah, that's the very first thing I did. Is there a problem you're looking for here?
Besides email, though, do you have a way to notify within the WebDirect?
Besides the email, do I have a what?
A notification system within WebDirect itself.
We log the notifications that were sent out and references to the emails. And I've looked at systems where we actually send emails out directly from FileMaker. I'm doing that with one construction company in Silicon Valley. That's part of probably a larger discussion we could have offline, because notifications can, I mean, you have log files, you can send them from FileMaker natively, or you can send them from another tool, and then there's a lot of conversation to have there, but I played with the different dimensions. Let's talk afterward, okay? Have a free t-shirt. He was next, then you. Go ahead.
Retaining information like items added to cart, somebody has to go away and come back an hour later. And how would you recommend in WebDirect that the system auto-recognize them and show their cart from an hour ago, but not necessarily the next day?
How do I have a person recognize what? A cart?
You know, so like if somebody's purchasing something,
Yes.
so they add little items to their cart, but then they have to go away for a couple hours and they come back and they come into the system again. They haven't logged in, they're still a guest
Right.
at the moment, but how do you
We actually, in this particular system, I think the question is, how do I manage users who come into the system, do something like they're going to buy something or assemble something and then leave and want to come back? So obviously we would have a child table and a user table where we store stuff. So yeah, we actually have user tables because in WebDirect I'm adding people dynamically from WebDirect, right? We're adding accounts and enabling and disabling accounts. So there's a user record for everybody, right? Because I'm actually gathering lists of people later. And you would have child tables to that, to orders that are pending or completed, and they'd be in different statuses, stati.
in this system, they haven't logged in yet. They're just browsing. And they're starting to add the cart. So I grab a persistent ID, but I, you know, in terms of trying to
Great question.
be recognized again when they come back, even though they haven't logged in.
So I have to repeat the question for the recording. Your question would be, if someone hasn't logged into the system and they're ordering things and it's in a shopping cart and they walk away and come back, you're working with a different business dynamic than I am, where all of my users have pre-entered into the system. We have a user record. You have to log in to do stuff. Actually, in that Luft file, the gateway file, that is an auto open with a standard password, low level password, and then we kick you out or let you in right away. So that is a case where all users can get into that file, but immediately we validate who they are and then kick them out or redirect them to different files and have them log into a different file. So in our case, if you're not part of the system, you're not ordering anything. In your case is different. That would take a little thinking, right? What you could use is something like what their universal persistent ID is. You could use that and create an account record there. That would probably be the solution, because that's all you really know is their persistent ID, right? Free t-shirt, sir.
Have you come up with any way to deal with people hitting the back button in the browser?
I think somebody asked that earlier. No, it's okay. Have I dealt with people doing a hit at the back button in the browser? What we've done is we've used PHP to get in and out of the system. So as soon as you hit the back button, we log you out and send you back to the re-login screen, period. You hit the forward button, you're gonna end up logging out and leaving your session open on the server for some period of time until the timeout comes around. And that just kind of dumps you out. Again, in the environments I'm working in, they're all kind of closed circuit where everybody has instruction on how to do it. Yeah, it's not just open to the World Wide Web kind of thing, which is where I think WebDirect really shines. It's when it is working with some type of fixed audience, where there can be a little bit of instruction. This is not something that's going to replace some huge website where anybody can go shopping. We're not going to make Amazon's shopping cart out of this, but for not a closed circuit, but a known audience, you give a little instruction about not doing that. Not the refresh, not the back, not the forward buttons. Does that answer your question? Pick a shirt if there's any left. My God, they're going. There's some. I hope you're not too big.
So you said you were using auto logging for that one file that you're doing the redirection for.
Yes.
So how do you get around the limitation of every time somebody navigates to your portal, they're consuming a WebDirect session? Do you not worry about it?
We don't worry about it because you can have, with 5 servers, up to 500 users, and in our dynamics, that's well in excess of the capacity we're concerned with. And if we need it, we just, with a site license, we just spawn a whole new AWS server and put on another system, because we're not going to have 500 people at an event for the type of things we're doing. And if we're going to go to like more events, we're just going to start another AWS server, could copy the system that's empty on there and start from there. That's how we're handling in excess of X number of sessions. You can have 100 WebDirect users on each server, and you can have up to 5 servers, one being the master, right, for a given license, for a given assembly of files, right, all pointing to the same database server. So you can, with expansion, have up to 500. For us, that's enough. Does that sort of answer your question?
A little bit. I guess if you have a specific audience, I guess it's not as much of a concern unless you're talking
Right.
about like an unauthenticated kind of landing page or navigation page. So how do you prevent people that just go AFK and just consume a session? Do you worry about it?
No, again, because there's some minimal training for every user on the system. Yeah, we're again, with a known audience, you control it to a little bit. There's not much training, but it's like, don't hit this button, don't do that button, don't walk away. But and actually, we're probably going to put a 10-minute timeout on the server for WebDirect users. We found that's pretty much optimum. Otherwise than that, we have older people and they get sidetracked and they forget and they go, "Oh, what's my username?" 10 minutes is enough. You don't want to leave a long time because then you can acquire inactive sessions. So use the time and instruction as a balance. Does that help? It's about the best I got. Yeah, thank you. You got a shirt already, cool. Who was next? Okay.
I saw you customize the actions running window.
Yeah.
That's in the PHP file.
Ask that question again.
How did you customize the action is running?
Oh. That's a wonderful discussion you can have and I can have offline, and there are files available for you to look at on my Dropbox to get a sense. Let's just say I did a little bit of customization. Sir. Sorry? If they open multiple tabs in the browser and have multiple sessions, I used to have the answer to that question. I think WebDirect's only going to allow you 1 session per browser. When I'm testing, I will open multiple browsers. I work on Windows a lot, and I have a Mac to my right, so I'll open it up in Safari and Chrome over here, and Safari and IE, and I'll have 4 things open, and I'll have FileMaker open, so I can test as 5 people on 2 computers, but separate entire browser brands, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think you're going to get kicked out when you try to open 2 tabs. Even like I have a Bank of America, it will not let me check my personal and my business account on 2 tabs in Google Chrome at the same time. It will lock me out of the other tab, and it's sort of like that. It's not really compatible. People may have other experience, but I think in general there's something in the documentation that says, don't do that. Yeah, okay. You're experienced. What? Okay.
Now with the current version of WebDirect, you can have multiple tabs open as long as the same user is using those.
Same user can have multiple tabs open in the same browser, and that works?
But each one of those tabs count against the session. No longer. No? Nope. Not anymore.
And you could say that pretty authoritatively?
I have many hundreds of users.
Nice.
Actually, thousands of users, hundreds of clients using WebDirect. That used to be a big issue. You can have many. That's actually one of the things that we sell. You can have many tabs open, keep your workflows going, as long as you're the same user logged into that session.
Is that new in 18 or?
I'm pretty sure that came with 17.
Okay, so I would like to know you if you would. Thank you. Let's talk after this. I want to answer a few more questions. If there's a t-shirt your size, you can have one for asking a question. Whoever didn't else. I think I have a couple left. Did you have a question? Your comments. So you're pretty experienced in this too. For what company? For FileMaker. I need to talk to you. Are you?
Yeah, it's especially that trick about how to get back to the where you started, because that comes up all the time. There's one of our guys, our IT guy in the back, who's going to explore your trick. He says, I always think I want to be able to get back to my own page without having to use that.
Yep. And you thank Mike Duncan for that. I just cleaned up the demo he gave me and customized it for you. So take a look at that demo file. And I would love to get your card. And I have business cards here if anybody wants them. But I would love to talk to you a little bit because I don't like working in a silo. And you know stuff I don't know. What's your name? What's your name? Emily. So can you reach out to me, please? Could you email me, please? Thank you. Other questions? Him and then you. Or, okay, hold on. A little louder, please.
I'm using WebDirect to communicate with my suppliers. They're completing just a simple form
Okay.
with our pricing agreements, and some of them can't come in. And you said that if it's HTTPS, it has to be HTTPS
Yes,
on their end.
to my knowledge.
How did you work around that? What was your solution to fix that? If my site is secure and theirs is not?
You don't do it. Pretty much, if anybody else can address this, please. But if you got HTTP to HTTPS or the other way around, you're going to do it in FileMaker Pro Advanced, fine, but it's not going to work in a web viewer in WebDirect to my knowledge at this time. I don't have a workaround for that. The only workaround I know of is that you reach out to the person who's designed that website at the target end and you say, take out the security code that is like built into default in browsers, that in websites for current browser technology, and allow me to get there. I built I don't have it with me, but a list of, just at random, a couple of the plugin manufacturers, HTTP, and I tried Yahoo and Google, and I just went through and I put it in that demo for logging out and so, or for opening up in WebViewer, and 90% of them broke. It's only the people who haven't updated their websites recently. It's older technology where you can get into. So I don't know the exact code you need to change. You may. X-frame options, same origin. You turn that off. Right.
Because otherwise somebody can embed you in an iframe of their web page and get you to put in your credentials and then steal them. So it's a security feature.
Right. So you.
Would it be good advice to tell that user not to log in through their employer's computer, but to maybe go to a phone or something?
Depends on the dynamic. If it's not something you can turn off at the other end because the employer's using the X-frames option as security, you can't turn it off, then you have to have a communication with your team, right?
The person has to have control of the header, and they may be reluctant to do it because they'd be vulnerable at that point to people embedding their page.
Right. So to try to get it to work, you're introducing a possible vulnerability. So that's a discussion you have to have on both sides of the communication. You may not be able to do it. And that really started, as I know, in about February when everything changed. Does that help? Will this fit you? T-shirt if you want it, ma'am.
As solo FileMaker developers, we're so used to working on a new project and immediately seeing the result and being able to kind of edit and tweak. Whereas with FileMakers and with WebDirect, since it's server-based, there's that difference. How do you do your development and testing? Do you put your file up on a server and then have a browser over here and your FileMaker here, or do you put the server on your laptop, on your
You're asking me what my development methodology is for FileMaker and FileMaker WebDirect and my server and what kind of environment I set up for my work, right? And that's a good question because maybe that'll fit you. I don't know. Maybe it's gone. I spent about $4,000 on this really cool Dell server with 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I put in ESXi, and I put on one instance of Windows Server 2016, and I put it in my office is in my living room, right? And I've got this off to the side. And then I've got 4 Amazon servers, and I was developing off of that, working right, and my customer's like, well, we want to see it more frequently. So long story short, because I have customers that I work really hand in glove with, and I know what they're up to. They don't have any master passwords. We just put everything up on an AWS server, and I am actually working online, and they're able to look at it, and we have GoToMeeting sessions for business meetings. And he's like, you know, that icon needs to be green, not blue, and I need to add that, and I'm like, how's that? So we're actually doing it live, and we haven't had any problem, we haven't had any crashes or corruption or anything. And once you get comfortable with that, it seems to work fine. I mean, it renders instantly, right? You change anything in FileMaker Advanced, and you've got hybrid screens, so the screen you're looking at is the same one the WebDirect user has got, and I may have 5 sessions open in WebDirect myself while I got it open, and I'm seeing on the different platforms. I have no problems. I'm getting to a point where I'm just pitching to use AWS or whatever else you want, but the online cloud servers are so fast. If you get a fast enough server, we got 16 gigabytes of RAM on that, and I don't know, there's 4 or 8 processors. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. So just
So I'm more comfortable with it.
one quick thing. So you don't do a lot of development, say, while you're on an airplane. In other words, while you're traveling.
No.
So you only do it when you have full access to your server.
That's when I study for certification testing and research and talk to colleagues, yeah. Does that help?
Thank you.
Sir, and then you're next.
How do you handle user authentication?
We're not using OAuth. We're not using external authentication. We're doing all FileMaker-based authentication. And actually, because this is a kind of a closed managed system, I have a way of actually extracting the encryption of passwords because I have volunteers and we have to be able to know what their passwords is, but it's a closed environment and I'm not worried about that level of security. I do, which violates normal security standards, and I warn my customer this, but they're plenty aware of it. We encrypt the usernames and passwords in a user table using base elements encryption, and then I store the key somewhere in a different file that no one can get to. It's so cryptic that if anybody ever wanted to get to it, they wouldn't get anything. But even if they got it, they're not going to get the information they need to charge credit cards because those have all been tokenized, and that key is somewhere else. So for our purposes, it's fine. That means I can't give you any advice around external authentication or OAuth with WebDirect because I don't do much of it. And when I do it, I do it for large biotechs that have their own internal authentication and LDAP, thing with Oracle and everything, and they're managing all of that, and I don't have to deal with it. So I've never really had to go into personally, directly dealing with external authentication. I don't know if that helps you. Okay. Sir. Container fields, yes.
But there is no way to have container fields on the WebDirect and have the option that you have on, like on FileMaker Go that you can think of for.
I didn't get the last part. Container fields, and then on that.
On FileMaker Go, when you have a container
Yeah.
field, you can click on the container field and it gives you the option that if you want to take a photo or
Oh yeah, you don't have that. FileMaker Go is a wonderful product, and it's entirely different than WebDirect and that type of functionality, and I can't address that because I don't really work much in Go anymore. But, right? If you know JavaScript, if you're a little more of a web developer than me, you can do some cool stuff. I'd like to know about that, but I don't really deal with signature stuff. I just deal with authenticating mostly images and Excel files and number files is really all I'm dealing with. And then the conversion, but that's, he could probably answer that question better. Anybody else?
Well, mine was again about the notification within WebDirect, because our application covers the whole operation of this manufacturing,
Nice.
small manufacturing company,
Okay.
everything. And
Everything.
so they keep it up all the time.
Right. Right. I've done that.
action items, and somebody just decided they wanted to be notified within the app, because that's where they're at.
Mhm.
Instead of having to go look.
Notified within the app. So I would probably, if you want people to be notified in the app for information and communications that are going on and they're working entirely in WebDirect, I would probably build something like a dashboard that the user can go to where records would be logged and shown in whether they're read or unread or processed or whatever, and have different stages and different colors in a portal. So you could click on that portal and go to a detail record or a popover so that whenever they navigate around the system, that could trigger like a little icon to come up and say, hey, you have stuff, messages to look at, little red I number or something. And then I would send them to the dashboard and say, just let's look at your recent messages. So you can very easily have every script talk to another script, which is a notification update script, to make some little thing appear, and then they know what to look at. That's how I would do it. On every layout, you have that little icon in the corner somewhere. One of the first systems I built professionally was for Electronic Arts, the big video game company, back in FileMaker 5. And I said, so what do you want to call this system? They all have names. And we want to call it HAL. I said, oh, you shouldn't have done that. You want to call it HAL from 2001? On every screen, I had a little eyeball, which was the red HAL eyeball in the corner. And they'd go to the screen, find the woman who hired me, she goes, you got to take that eyeball off. It's scaring me. But that's what I started doing it way back then, is some little notification thing going on. And actually, back then when we had voice stuff, if you did something wrong, I would actually have that voice that I downloaded off on Google saying, I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. You could be playful with it. Anybody else?
Any out-of-the-box themes?
Oh, themes. Thank you. Take 14 t-shirts. There's one left if it fits you. I only work with minimalist from scratch, and unless I'm in a list view, there's no header, there's no footer, and in like detail views, it's body, right? And I only use minimalist, and with this current customer, I'm going to be leveraging this theme for other people. It's very white, kind of Mac looking, right? Very simple. You may or may not like the particular design, but the lightness, we only use minimalist, we rename it, and we apply all our styles to that. And I'm kind of a one-trick pony. When I get on some kind of style, and I got groomed by this large manufacturing company I was working for 6 years ago about very white, very light. They didn't even like things that were black, like everything was a shade of gray. And then I started to think of some people like to have a little more contrast as we get older so we can see stuff, right? So everything in WebDirect everything's Arial. Everything's 16 point, unless I'm trying to scream a message, and it might be 24 point. You know, and dark black for data, a little lighter for labels, well, we got like 500 styles, but it's all in one theme, and it's all based on minimalist because that is the purest, whitest, simplest one I can get. It's not perfect, it's not as clean and blank slate as I would like, but that's all I use.
I have a system we were from Classic to WebDirect it's very complex.
Oh.
And it works in Classic, so I'm scared to
No. What version of FileMaker are you in?
server 17.
Yeah, okay, classic is classic. Bad. You know, call me. I'll talk to you free. Let's talk. Call my name. Call or email. If you email, it's JONN, there's no H. But what's your name? Steven. I'd love to chat with you anytime. Just give me a call. Yeah, plenty of cards. Anything else? Did you guys find this useful? I'm not looking for applause. I just wanted, you liked it? Okay, good. Beat me up if I did something wrong. Really?
Yeah, and
Sorry, let's do that right. What's your name?
Aaron Gutleben.
Oh, take my card, give me yours if you got it. I'd love to. Let's have lunch. I live in Auburn Folsom Road, right at Indian Hill. You know where it is?
I ride motorcycle.
I ride an e-bicycle everywhere. It's my exercise. And my sister lives in Rockland.
Nice.
So we're neighbors.
Good. Yeah, we've met before.
Yeah.
This is like my 50th DEF CON. I've spoken a couple times.
Oh, right. But I used to live down in Ventura, so I moved up about 3 years ago.
I was going to say, like, I didn't realize that.
I love Northern California. The people are so nice, and you got nature, and my sister's there, and she needs me, and it's good for me. That would be great. Thank you.